What is up, guys? Delboy here. So like I predicted, Gervonta Davis was way too much for Liam Walsh. There's a few people in the UK who felt that Liam Walsh could give Gervonta Davis a tough fight. I was never one of those people. I felt Davis would make relatively easy work of Liam Walsh. And that's no disrespect to Liam Walsh. Walsh is a good European level operator. But when you look at that division, if you look at some of the world champions like Gervonta Davis, Vasyl Lomachenko, Miguel Berchelt, Jezreel Corrales, this is a stacked division. So when you really look at it in reality, Liam Walsh was never a top 10 contender. If you look at every single fighter in the division, he was a top contender in the IBF rankings, but the reality was he was never a top 10 fighter in that division. And that's just all there is to it. And I felt Davis would make fairly easy work of Liam Walsh. It might take him a couple of rounds to figure him out, with the range and the height. But apart from that, I just felt Davis was way too dynamic in his attack. He was just too quick, too powerful, and just ultimately too good for Liam Walsh. And that's what we saw tonight. The first round I scored to Gervonta Davis. Both men in the first round tried to establish the distance. Walsh was trying to establish his jab but wasn't really landing with anything. Davis was looking for his big left hand. It was kind of a feeling out round, but I just felt that Davis was more proactive. He looked the more dynamic fighter. It looked like he was a guy who was looking for those killer shots. And Walsh was kind of... I felt Walsh was just trying to sort of, he wasn't really looking for those big openings kind of thing, but I felt Davis was always looking for that big left hand. Round 2, both men were still trying to establish the distance. Tank Davis was falling short with a few shots, but again, Davis still looks more proactive. He still looks more aggressive. He lands a good left hand, and he then lands another good left hand counter punch at the end of the round. Again, round 2 was another Davis round. Round 3, in round 3, I felt Davis came out and looked much more aggressive. He was looking much more proactive, looking for that big left hand. Davis hurts Walsh with a big left, and then follows up to drop Walsh. Walsh beats the count, but does look unsteady. And Davis then sort of jumps on him and gets the finish. The commentary was saying it was premature, but me personally, I felt this was a fight that Liam Walsh couldn't have won in the first place. And I felt he did look pretty hurt when he got up. He was still sort of he was really on unsteady legs when he got up. So, listen, maybe it could have gone on a bit longer, but I just felt this was a fight that Liam Walsh just couldn't win. I predicted that from the start. I felt Davis was way too good, and that proved tonight. I was relatively impressed with Davis. I felt the atmosphere didn't get to him. It was a pro Liam Walsh crowd, so that was a good experience for Davis to get under his belt. Liam Walsh was an undefeated fighter, regardless if he wasn't top 10 or not. So I felt this was a good learning fight for Davis against an unbeaten guy in his hometown. So credit for Gervonta Davis. And where does Davis go from here? I know the guys around him and Mayweather, they kind of want to bring him along slowly. But the reality is he's a world champion, so can you really do that? That's the question, because I've always had a problem with fighters who try to develop when they hold a world title. I think when you hold a world title, it comes to the point where you need to fight everybody. You need to be open to fight everybody. And I had that same criticism to Canelo Alvarez when he first won his world title a few years back against Matthew Hatton, I believe, and he was fighting sort of C-level guy after C-level guy and sort of developing with a title. That's not on. When you have a title, you need to be fighting the best. And I think Gervonta has the skill set and the ability to compete at that level. So to me, there's no reason to develop this guy against B-level competition. I think Gervonta Davis should really sort of look at that top 10 level and go for those guys, because I really think he's good enough. I think he's got a lot of talent, and as a boxing fan, obviously I would love to see him fight the likes of Vasyl Lomachenko, Miguel Berchelt, Jezreel Corrales, guys like that next. I'd love to see him in those type of guys, because I'm a believer in Tank Davis. I think he's a very good fighter. I'm not saying he beats all of those guys I mentioned, but at the very least he will be competitive, So yeah, I think the future for Gervonta Davis is looking bright. He's only 22 years old, and the future is ahead of him. And I really like Gervonta Davis. His personality and the way he conducts himself almost reminds me of myself, to be honest. And sometimes you watch boxing. As fans, we watch boxing, and sometimes you see fighters who just resonate with you, and they remind you of yourself. And Gervonta Davis is one of those guys who I really just identify with. He's a similar age to me. I'm a little bit older than Gervonta Davis. And yeah, I wish him the best of luck, because he seems like a nice kid. And he's an exciting fighter. And as boxing fans, that's all we want to see, exciting fights, and that's it really. So yeah, I think it was a good performance from Gervonta Davis. In his next fight, I'd like to see him in there with a top 10 competitor. But yeah, I really do. I really think Davis is a good talent and one to keep an eye out for, because I think he can be in some big fights. And although I would make Vasyl Lomachenko a favourite against him, if you look at everybody else in that division, guys like Miguel Berchelt or Jezreel Corrales, or guys like that, I would pick Tank to beat those guys. And I know that's probably premature, but as a fan of Tank, I'm going to roll with him. I think he's a good fighter. I think he's a very dynamic fighter. As I said in my prediction video, he's one of my favourite fighters coming out of the United States at the moment. I just find his attitude and his personality a bit refreshing. I like the way he goes about his business. But what do you guys think? Peace.